let's move on here because, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Donald Trump has refused to rule out using military force to take over the Panama Canal and Greenland, arguing that U.S. control of both are important for national security.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. You have approximately 45,000 people there. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. I'm talking about protecting the free world.
Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is past chair of the Parliament's Foreign Affairs and Defence Committee, Michael Danby. Michael, thanks so much for joining me tonight.
Good evening, James. How are you?
Great. What do you make of Trump's ambitions to control Greenland and the Panama Canal? What do you make of all of this?
Well, I don't make of it what CNN makes of it, literally an attack by Trump with the military on Greenland. This is a negotiation. Trump is not even president yet. He's opening the batting by suggesting that Denmark needs to spend more on defence. And on both occasions, Denmark and Greenland need to be concerned about Beijing's activities in Greenland, because Greenland is very strategically sited across the Arctic between China, Russia and America, and it's a legitimate area of concern. It wouldn't be my top priority. The Panama Canal, likewise, 5% of international shipping traffic goes through there. I'd be more concerned about the Red Sea because that's 15% there. But the Chinese companies, Beijing has bought at least 2 of the 5 concessions on the Panama Canal. And if you're an American a military person in particular worried about shipping through the Panama Canal in times of crisis, you'd be very concerned about China's role in that. And I think the best way is put a bit of pressure on the Panamanians, Donald, and buy some of the concessions back off the Chinese.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think you've absolutely got it right where so many people have gotten it wrong. Trump is a negotiator. These are always just opening gambits, and he's always looking to distract you while he's doing something else. I've been watching him since I was a kid in New York City, and this is always the way. It's amazing they have still fallen for it. But Donald Trump also had some strong words of warning for Hamas when it comes to the hostages who are still being held captive in Gaza. Have a listen to this.
If those hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East. Can you elaborate? And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out. I don't have to say anymore, but that's what it is.
Now, reports have come out that Hamas has put together a list of 34 hostages it is now potentially willing to release as part of a ceasefire deal. Does this suggest to you that Trump's tough talk, where Joe Biden failed to do anything in the way of tough talk since October 7th regarding Hamas, is going to actually pay some results here?
At least it's getting us to the starting blocks. Now, the problem is that Hamas wants a huge number of political prisoners who have been convicted of capital crimes. It wants to substitute live hostages for the bodies of hostages who passed away. So all of these things are still problematic, but it's the Trump pressure that's counting. And let's explain something to our dear friends at the ABC. Even Secretary Blinken has been saying repeatedly, and in the New York Times, you've read it, James, that it's Hamas that's blocking the deal. The Israelis are willing to make concessions to get their poor hostages out of those depraved circumstances with these beasts in the airless tunnels underneath Gaza. But something is going to happen, but the pressure will come not just on Mohammed Sinwar, who Trump may say can be assassinated like Haniyeh or Nasrallah. It could come on Turkey and Iran. Turkey's got the Hamas leaders there, and I can imagine Donald ringing up Erdogan saying, a la Tony Soprano, now you get those guys or give them the Midnight Express treatment to release those hostages. And he also could free up the CENTCOM to bomb some IRGC sites in Iran, because after all, James, as we know, the Iranians are the ones who are the paymasters of Hamas, Hezbollah, etc. This is a 7-front war. It's not just the Gaza the poor Palestinians in Gaza that are subject of all of this. It's a seven-front war against Israel. I wish the ABC would explain that to its listeners and to all Australians.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, I want to come back here a little closer to the home, where Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke is under fire following revelations. The government has canceled fewer than 5 visas in relation to anti-Semitic rhetoric or conduct since October 23. James Patterson, the Opposition Home Affairs spokesman, has slammed the government's response. And I want to ask you, Michael Danby, do you really think, this is good enough?
This is a crazy policy. Since when did Australia arrogate to itself the fact that we're getting 3,000 people from a war zone that are only imperfectly checked? Only when Home Affairs refers them to ASIO are they checked. This is ridiculous. Tony Burke better hope that some of those people who he is allowed to remain in Australia don't get involved in any other incidents, because he will, there'll be a political hanging party for them if he does. I also think one of the worst decisions that this government has made in this Middle East policy comes from him, again, with the 13-page interrogation he subjects all Israeli tourists to. There are no such interrogations for people coming from Greece or from Turkey or from any democratic country in Europe parallel to the Israelis. Not even people from China or Russia are subject to this. He wants to know their family history in these interrogations. He wants to know what units their parents served in the military. Where is this information going? Tony Burke's got a real bee in his ear, and this is a terrible policy. And hopefully, when Mark Dreyfus goes to Israel, the Israelis will implore him and get him to come back to Australia and have it reversed.
Well, if only it was Penny Wong going over there rather than Dreyfus. But anyway, there we are. Michael Danby, thank you so much for your time and for walking us through all of